Do you think that the deal has to be sweetened? It can't just be about more for a breakup fee or good for the money in terms of Larry Ellison.
Yeah, it's a very clear picture of who's got the leverage here. Clearly, WBD has suitors, and David Zaslav can just sit and fold his arms and say, look, you're not talking in my good ear yet, Paramount. And it's not a dumb way to try to drive their offer up even higher, and that wouldn't surprise me.
What do you think could be the quibbling around the cable networks? That's the area that you knew, you loved, you performed in. And there has been, of course, the regulatory concern about who ends up owning CNN, but more broadly about what they really are basically priced at, Jon.
Yeah, and value really depends on the acquirer. And there could very well be acquirers out there in the universe of media who value those cable networks much more highly than a Netflix would or even Paramount would. And you could see where Versant, for example, which is being spun off from Comcast, which is identical to the cable spinoff that WBD is doing. You could see them valuing TNT, TBS, True TV, CNN much more highly than these current players are. So value is in the eye of the beholder. I could see the local station giants like Nexstar and Sinclair also loving the idea of having both a national footprint as well as their ever-growing roster of local stations. So, there could be even more money available to WBD if they go ahead and sell those two components separately.
I see. What would you think would happen if, and it's a big if, Paramount Skydance got hold of all the assets? Because Netflix, we know if that deal gets done, the cable networks would be spun off. But if Paramount Skydance took hold, what do you think then would be the evolution here?
Well, they could still do a spin-off of their own cable properties and broadcast properties. There's all kinds of financial engineering that could then take place. I don't know that it would happen overnight, although this new Paramount management team has moved extremely quickly. David Ellison gets a lot of attention, but Jeff Shell, who was the chairman of NBC Universal, it is a fantastic operator, and I could see them moving quickly. However, it sort of reminds one of the snake that eats the deer. It unhinges its jaw and it spends the next 3 months just trying to move that thing down the tunnel. And it could take a while for all of these synergies to be realized.
How important is the Ellison relationship with the administration at this point, Jon? Because that's in many ways what they thought would clinch the deal, it's been reported.
Well, much as David Zaslav is able to sit there and play one side off the other, so is Donald Trump in a similar position where has not put his finger on the scale yet in favor of Paramount's offer, despite his relationship with Larry Ellison. And he has said very nice things about Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO of Netflix. And I think that Donald Trump is enjoying being in a position to see who can curry more favor with him. So there's no reason for either President Trump or David Zaslav to pull the trigger on anything just yet. They want to see how these deals all get sweetened.
I suppose the other contingent, a stakeholder who is sat there with their arms folded, is the investor base right now. They've got, until January the 21st to digest whether this go direct in the way the Ellisons have approached them, Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders, to be clinched versus going with Netflix. What would you say to an investor who's holding Warner Brothers Discovery shares right now?
That there's plenty of time for this deal from Paramount to go even higher. So one way or another, WBD is going to be making out very nicely. History has shown us that the sellers in these media deals tend to make out better than the buyers. So they're in a pretty good position in that respect as well. You look at Disney's acquisition of the Fox assets a few years ago, and Disney's valuation has dropped significantly since then. And Rupert Murdoch is counting his money. So they're in a decent position, and there's no need to get too worked up just yet. Plenty of time for the dollars to increase.
What's so interesting about your trajectory in media is you've sort of been able to see around the corners. You were in the heart of news, in the heart of production, then you went into the world of AI selling, well, helping manage a business, eventually went to Apple. You're with Hang Media at the moment. What does all of this mean for Hollywood and for content creation right now?
Well, we're on at the very beginning of a content creation explosion. And this deal, however it turns out, is taking place within a much larger environment in which creators who are being distributed by YouTube and TikTok are commanding much more viewing time than the traditional producers, writers, directors, and most of all, studios. And so in a lot of ways, this battle for the assets of WBD is really all about the way media used to be. But the big winner here is YouTube, because nobody's keeping their eye on that. I mean, YouTube made headlines last week. They just stole the Oscars from ABC. Beginning in 2029, YouTube is going to be where you go to watch the Oscars. And listen, in the 2030s, I think all those tech giants are going to be running media, and all of these other companies will be significantly smaller. And we're just seeing the beginning of this. So in a lot of ways, this matters a lot to the shareholders for WBD, Netflix, Paramount, et cetera. But in terms of the long-term trajectory of the media industry, that's all happening somewhere else.